Howdys and salutations, y'all! I am super sorry about the late start, but you know, sometimes real life does have to take precedent after all. Precedent? Ah, one of the two. Um, but yeah, and unfortunately we are also going to have to wrap up a little early today for a similar reason. The actual job that pays the bills has some things that I need to get done. Nothing wrong with that, but unfortunately I need to do, go do them. However, in the meantime, we can take a little bit of a pause, spend maybe an hour, hour and a half in here, and have some fun. So, couple of things. First off, let's go ahead and get a new canvas going in here. Let's see, what the heck is today? 22/August and the 15th, mayhaps? Interesting. And Gen Pokemon 1. Little sneak preview of what we're up to, because we've got some interesting stuff today. It's gonna be a weird one. I'm sure all of you have seen some of that weird, like the crazy new art done by like the Doll-E generator and a few of those. Well, a little before that one was really going viral, my brother introduced me to a interesting little app that was a similar type deal called Dream. It's by, oh, what the heck is the group called? Wombo.art. Anyway, they've got free access to the app, and it's a whole series of like generators with filters and such. And so I decided, wouldn't it be fun, after messing around with that for a bit, wouldn't it be fun to go dig out some of the old Pokemon it generated from different prompts, um, and see if we could actually draw those as real Pokemon, because they always turn out a little wonky, as you might be guessing from that other thing you're seeing on the screen, which, don't worry, this one right here, we'll explain that a little more in a minute. But yeah, first things first, credit where it's due for the Pokemon idea. A little of this inspiration was from, I believe it's Randall Munroe, the guy who does XKCD. Great comic, by the way. He had been doing Pokemon cards through the ages with Dolly and got some really fun results. So I thought it'd be fun to mess around with that with Dream and its various filters. And so, yeah, we will be digging into that in just a moment here. Let me just write down a couple things real quick. Because it's, sorry, it's been a bit of a blur of a day. Productive, always good, always exciting when that's the case. But yeah. Okay, next thing to explain. Real quick. I know we've sort of been doing a lot of like one-offs, so I do think that this would be fun to actually try to take the week to do this one a little better, because we've only got like, especially an hour today, and then maybe 2 hours regularly. That's not necessarily enough time to finish up projects each time. And, you know, it's fun to come and go to them, but it's also fun to be able to just sit down, sort of like we did during Art Fight, and just commit to one for a little bit. So that's what we're going to try to do a little better. Let me correct a few things. I need to update the stream title and info. Again, sorry, normally I'd love to do this in advance, but today sort of got away from me. And by got away from me, I mean had other prior obligations. Let's see, drawing AI generated Pokemon Wombo art. And that's not sponsored or anything. I don't have any clue whether wombo.art is a good group or not. I have no idea. But I gotta give credit because they're the ones who do it. Let's see, Pokemon, sort of. And then our category is art. And we can throw some more tags on here. I was thinking we probably ought to throw family friendly since that is indeed true. And yeah, let's throw that in there. I'll have to figure out how to use the tags better now that they've added all these custom ones. Okay, so last thing to explain before we get started, because I did actually manage to set up a whole bunch of new stuff, if not the new stream overlay. I am going to try to get that fixed. I can't really commit this week, but definitely by next week we'll have that sorted out. In the mean, it turns out that the tool I used, I need a subscription in order to edit with transparency. And anyway, that's neither here nor there. I can get that in a little bit, but I can't get it right away. So, in the meantime, what I can show you is this lovely little tool called PureRef. Now, you've probably heard about it before. It's recommended by, I heard about it from a couple different pro artists, like streams and such, before I finally went and got it. And it's free, or you can, donate and give or pay and what have you. It's sort of like Bandcamp. But it's just a great little tool that's basically a reference image holder. And unlike all the other ones where we were having to sort of like scoot it in on the screen, I can display it in a separate window on here. So that's what we're going to be doing more of. I can zoom out and show you this dream reference we've created. I can just display it right in here in Stream Elements with no problem. And yeah, there we go, PureRef. Oops, I'm gonna have to. Come on, let me actually move the. Oh, right, it's this one. Got it. Okay, sorry, I gotta move it out of my way so I can see. But yeah, so this is what we got. I just chucked Snivy into one of their filters. I want to say it's called like Blacklight or something. They've got a bunch of different ones. The names don't always exactly match what actually pops out of them. I was toying around with it a little bit, and I got this one that I thought was really cool looking. So let's actually pop that up nice and big for a minute. So in my mind, I just threw Snivy in here. This sort of looks like we got two Snivies, and one of them's almost got like Metroid-like mecha armor on it. Can't really show you with my mouse, unfortunately, for the hierarchy, but like, man, it looks like Metroid shoulder pads on that top one. And so I thought that this would be a fun one to sort of take some time and like, yeah, let's see if we can draw it. And by draw it, I do mean in like a more traditional Pokemon style. This one's sort of got kind of watercolors, and if you look too far into any detail, it's clearly AI generated with just sort of random stuff happening. Not all of it making sense, not all of it coherent, so I thought it'd be fun to see what we could do about that. I do love the colors though on this. They don't always line up super well. Um, I mean, I'm sure anyone who's seen what Dolly spits out, like there's sometimes good ones and sometimes real trash. Often a mix. That's how it works. They're learning. Um, well, let's see. First off, we don't need these colors for it, and we don't need to be on a raster layer if we're doing some basic sketching. So we'll just put that away for now. And let's just get kind of it's kind of a bluish green, but still kind of darker end of that. Somewhere around here. Yeah, it'll do. Okay. And then I'm going to try to, well, we'll try to sketch it out first and see if we can even recreate that. But then we will see if we can actually recreate these looking like Pokemon with their style of shade and everything. And then this is another one. I know we've talked about the style studies before. This is one of those times where that's definitely some useful experience. So we'll just pop that over there for now, and I'll try not to draw over top of it too much. Let's see. Until then, I guess let's jump. Well, let's save first. Good, we're in the right place this time. I need to adjust my name to match my own naming convention. Curses. There we go. Sneak preview of my file structure. Exciting times. I feel like my layers are starting higher. Did I rearrange something by accident? Eh. Okay. Cool. So, looking at this, we're just trying to get basic outlines down first. And again, feel free to throw in with ideas, thoughts, suggestions, whatever you want to do. We're more than happy to have participation, criticism, what have you. Throw it all out there. Doesn't mean I always listen to it, but I try to take in actually useful feedback or stuff offered in good faith. If you just tell me it's fire, burn it, I will probably ignore you because this computer is too expensive for me to burn. Sorry. But in the meantime, I am down for that. However, you don't have to. You're more than welcome to just lounge in the background, take a chill evening, relax, and we'll just see if we can do some quote-unquote Snivy art. I almost called this drawing Pokemon Evolutions, but some of the generations actually look like it's gone backwards for some of the other ones that we've gotten. So, like, a little hit or miss. It's fun, though. But today I'm just focusing on Snivy. So let's... Man, I'm not warmed up or anything. We'll see how this goes. So as with everything, even though this isn't human, I do still want to try to get proportions down and rough angles relative to each other. So just looking at this top one, let's see. Okay, so I think the main shape is sort of, well, okay, let's see. If I'm trying to line it up while looking at it, we've sort of got that shape. We've got kind of the orby shoulder, and then the face comes out about as far as the back part does, and it comes out pretty much straight out. This sort of overlaps a little bit before like the main hood piece here. Got kind of this trying to sort of roughly lay out where stuff is right now. Get proportions, and then we'll actually do one that looks decent. I kind of like this as a face with the eyes sort of looking backwards. Anyway, okay, so let's see if this is sort of here, and it's still unclear. This is part of the AI art hasn't fully replaced human art for a number of reasons, but one of them is that like there's stuff in here where it's unclear what it is. Is this a scarf? Is this the arm? Is it moving fast? Is it like a tabard? It's not super obvious what's happening in a lot of this, and that's because there's not actually necessarily an answer, and that's fine. It's fun. It's interesting art. It's not inherently like bad or worthless or anything. Um, not at all. No matter what some people may try to say. But it does mean that there's not necessarily an authorial, or the artist doesn't have any intent in it necessarily going in. Not with the current level of AI that's doing this generation. So we sort of have to fill in details for ourselves, make our own judgments on some of this. So we've got an eye there. Got kind of this. Of course, this has like a little depth to it almost with the way it's shaded, which is interesting. And then this one kind of feels like a different one, so I'm gonna focus on that one later. This kind of feels like an upper half of an armored one, whereas that one's like a kid or going really fast or something. I don't know. Different variant. Anyway, so now that we've sort of got like a small, quick doodle that basically captures the general view of it, let's see if I can't get this with a little more detail and precision. So, assuming I don't swap to the eraser tool. Awesome. Okay, so once again, I need to actually try to match the slope of this, because eyeballing it was not getting me a good result there, which is fine. There's some times where I can eyeball something, and there's some times where I can't. And that's, you know, just learn to pick your battles. Sometimes it's worth trying to practice and refine until you can absolutely nail it with your eyes. Sometimes just look at the reference. But yeah, there's no shame in references at all. That seems to be the more common advice on the internet. Like it from every guide I find says like, yeah, there's no shame in references, with the implication that at some point somewhere there's people implying that there's a lot of shame in references, but I haven't seen anyone implying that. So I think the sort of tone has changed in general. Oh, let's see, we've got sort of rough lines here. Okay, I'm just kind of loosely getting some of these in. Sort of, where does this land in the curve? It doesn't really fill all the way up, does it? Sort of, okay, so it starts really near the edge here. Or like it's a glint on it. And it kind of curves off lower. Yeah. There's kind of two parts to it. There's one that curves all the way across, like this. And then there's one that kind of curves down and gets like this yellow reflection. Leave way for what appears to be like a joint opening where you could actually connect an arm socket of some sort. Got kind of the circle there. See, we've just got, whoops, this. And some Breath of the Wild Zelda, I think I'm hearing. It's always fun when you get sort of the trickling sounds of that one. I'm not actually sure it is, though. Oh, yep, it is. Breath of the Wild, Riding at Night. That was a wild soundtrack. It lived up to the name, I suppose. But really good, really phenomenal. Okay, and then this does sort of have, like, yeah, it's got the kind of like a really faint, like that sort of going on. This behind it's kind of like a sharper, almost edge. That going on. And then it kind of blends into the background because, again, some of the AI generated stuff, there's not actually like clear delineation between the two for a lot of this. It's fascinating thinking about the implications of AI generated art, along with everything else. But like, that's one of those ones where I think it's just going to show up and we're going to have to sort of deal with them as we go because we're not really in a place as a like society to anticipate all the changes yet. But never hurts to plan, see what we can think out, try to avoid any potholes that we can see coming. Um, I certainly don't want to get any political conversations on Twitch or, well, most places really. Yeah, a one-on-one political conversation can be great. You can actually discuss things. There's no peer pressure or anything like that. But as soon as you get in a group, suddenly everything you say is like measured against how everyone will respond to it. And like every opinion has to be like weighted and considered, and it gets very complicated. And when you're in a group, suddenly if some group is like has like more members of one or the impression of more members of one, then it gets really complicated trying to not step on toes. And like, I don't know. It's just not a good setting for it. Okay, so I've gone and made this too long, really and truly. I'm actually gonna let's just start it over. I know normally I try to use the move tool, but I think I'm just kind of in like a more basic sketching mode today. It's one of those days. Lot going on. I just want to keep it simple. So let's figure out, like we've got the angle, I think, pretty okay. Let's figure out length, because really this is, like looking at the reference here, this is at most the same length as the like shoulder joint. Like your brain says, oh, torso must be longer, but it's not. And it also, the central line of it actually kind of connects more up here. Like, no, it's not low down, it's pointing at the light, so. Kind of like this, and then kind of like that, I think. Yeah. This, and this one's almost straight out. It's just like a little bit down. Oh, that's got a little better taper to it I can do. Come on. Yeah, there we go. No, a little more curve of this. I do love sort of how the curves of these joints kind of came out in this generation. Really fun. Okay, I'm trying to look in. Is there like a bump or something in there? Or does it just kind of go until it runs into the tabard piece? There's kind of some backgroundy. I'm just going to say it goes. There's definitely going to be some artistic liberties on this, to say the least. There's not really any way to do it otherwise. Okay, so yeah, we'll sort of stick with that for now for that piece. I'll come back and get the sort of yellow of the tabard. I keep calling it a tabard. That's sort of what it is in my mind. I feel like this one's kind of missing an arm or something. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it comes together. I want to figure out the face first. Okay, this is already. So once again, the face is weirdly this is actually broken into kind of 3 even-ish lengths. And one of them is this face piece. So I want to make sure that I'm not making it too long right off the bat. We've got kind of this, and then curves down, and then back up. Okay. We've sort of got the bottom part of the face outlined, and the nose kind of tips in here. And then we know, based on sort of this joint, that there's going to be, this is going to steeply get up to about there. But it's not really, so looking vertically, like the top of this little ridge here doesn't get that much higher than this piece. So I need to make sure that I don't overthink like, oh, it's above, so it's tall. Because my brain wants me to do that, and it's like, no, it's not, the difference isn't that big. But this is a pretty steep slope here. Then it kind of tapers off a little bit, but this actually does go up a fair ways. Probably about as much as this does, so maybe like here. And looking at where it lands above the back, it's roughly midway, a little bit behind the point. Yeah. Okay. And we've got kind of the steep and then the slope. That's going to sort of come to this point, a little edge, and then it drops down back here about halfway through this. While this kind of comes over to a point that is actually further, it's like almost directly above this base point. Maybe like a little further forward. It's pretty far forward in this. So we'll just keep on keeping on with that. And I kind of like the idea that this sort of has to rebound up a little bit. Kind of like a cloak thing going. It like curves in once, and then the second curve in is actually going to land sort of at the upper edge of this piece. We'll get the tabard in there in a minute, but not quite yet. Then of course there's the fact that this eye just sort of like wedges in here and reconnects there. Kind of like a sharp edge, like pentagon type thing going in here. There's some shadows in here and a little edge on this that we'll get once we're doing some more like detail rendering. I realize I'm getting pretty detailed on this, but since we've got this outline, I'm really trying to get like just the important detaily bits here. Like we've got this like, it looks like a rock formation almost in here. Snivy, did you become rock type when you evolved? What happened? Not that I'm complaining. Pretty cool looking evolution. Okay, let's see. Okay, I realize we're only at like the 20-minute mark, but I am going to have to take a very quick pause, and then I will be right back. I like how this is coming along, though. I'll be back in like 3 minutes. BRB. Okie dokie. Howdies and salutations, y'all. Once again, we are back. And let's, actually, before we pause, or unpause fully, I'm gonna throw some more tags on here, because while we're here, we might as well use them. Let's see, AI generated art. Not that anyone's gonna search that, but I am gonna throw Pokemon on here. um, Maybe just AI. Well, no, because I'm not doing the AI. This is just the result of it. I don't know how specific folks are going to be with the tags. We'll sort of have to see how that plays out. I suspect they're going to be generally overused, although you can only put 10 on a stream, so that at least helps with some of the specificity issues. Like, people can't just throw 1,000 tags on something that are, like, vaguely related. But you know now whenever there's a trending tag, well, I guess always whenever there was a trending tag, like, there was a chance that people would just throw whatever they were doing into the trending category, so hopefully that won't happen any more than it used to. Okay, back in action. Sorry again about the pause. Unfortunately, restroom breaks are a tragic part of being human. So gotta do them, just like eating. No shame in food. Like, food's good, but like, it'd be nice if you could choose when you wanted to do it and didn't have to just constantly worry about it. Help with budgeting. Anyway, let's see. It looks like this one. We'll see if we keep this ridge, but I'm gonna keep it in this like rough line art for now. It's not quite a sneer. There's a confidence to it, but it looks angry. Well, it looks angry in the original. I need to make sure that I can sort of capture that with this one. Okay, let's see. Paint. Interesting. Snively's always so. Everything in its line is so calm and downright stoic. This guy's coming out here looking like it's raring for a fight. Kind of an interesting variant. If Pokemon had like variant evolutions, I mean more so than they a few of them sort of do. And now with that Arceus, I prefer to call it Arceus, but whatever, they're both right. With that one, I guess there's actually some. But yeah, it'd be cool to see some variants or more variants like that. I know they've got the regional ones now too. Okay, so let's think about the tabard because it's kind of free flowing and weird in proportion to everything else. So, oh no, this little section that I'm drawing looks a tiny bit like a small Amogus. Oh dear. Oh dearie me. So I know I'm drawing this off with a line like this, but it's technically more like that. But the edge of it is actually the top of it is about parallel with this now, isn't it? Okay. Then it's sort of like that, really. But this kind of curves to it. And then this one, still our little bean, um, sort of does that. Whoop, nope, not quite. That squares off. Down around the edge. I like a little bit of shadow-ish there. Oh, and a much more bold shadow there, of course. I'll do a little bit with the shadows, but like the actual like typical Pokemon style, they're pretty simple shadows on most of them, based on what I'm looking at for reference. So we won't get too crazy into it. Okay, so this next sort of segment, it really only comes out to about here in terms of like the loop, it's like a little under the head. So it's like this way on that in terms of like that direction. But then downwards, even though it looks like it's going way far out, it's really not like further down than this. So it's going to be kind of in this area. Got kind of this. Oh, not that. Kind of like a small down, like kind of a loop down like that. And it kind of curves in like that. Makes it look a little too wide at the top. It's kind of got like more of a something like that. Oops. Actually wanted the eraser on that one. Ah, not that one though. Whoopsie doodle. Literally, that doodle was a whoopsie. Okay. And then this kind of looks like almost like an owl's face. I need to finish watching Owl House. Yeah, actually, I got real close to the finale. Or did I finish this latest season? I cannot remember. It was getting exciting, I can say that much. It's kind of hard to judge it until I see it in the context of the other seasons around it. Anywho, okay, this next one is basically the same distance or same direction as this, but it's like a little thinner at the end. It kind of tapers and it's a little further away. So maybe simple as that, really. Kind of flares out in almost like a mermaid tail that ends up coming out further than the nose. Oh, okay, actually this needs to come out a little further. And actually, truthfully, this one does too. A little more. Okay, I think that's more correct. Then this one, like the thinnest point is like right below the eye almost. So maybe this is like a... Oh, I'm on the eraser, aren't I? We'll put this one down a little bit. Okay, that will just kind of taper there, and this will just kind of continue this way. And yeah, that'll be that. And then it tapers into like the end of the tail that kind of reaches roughly the nose area. And the other end of the tail that really doesn't get much further to the right, it just goes much further down, like about the same distance that this has, kind of thereabouts. But I want to get kind of this guiding underline in here first. Like laying out all the different little components on a mech almost, with the, or like with the different pieces of an armor with the way this is done. It was really an interesting generation. Like I've done a lot of the sort of just playing around with the app and doing just different generations. This one's surprisingly coherent shape. Like it's the edges are much better defined than they are in a lot of the other ones, which is interesting. But like on the flip side, I mean it's still not all the way there, but it's cool. I guess not on the flip side. On the flipper side, we'll continue drawing this way. Um, but generally speaking, it's fascinating to see. This merge is roughly mouth width, right? And then this stays roughly the same. Not quite, not quite. I mean, this was a good starting point, but then I want this to be roughly the same length all the way down. We'll have to tweak that a little bit. There's tools for that. This kind of is like a little in, fans out, and then down. Okay, I think that's roughly right for those pieces. There's obviously like a lot of shadow here. I know there's some defined shapes here, but I think they kind of work better as shadow. That'll be sort of down. And this one just kind of ends sort of like a little bulb and then a point. Interesting. It looks like a torn up like fin tail almost. But not quite that though. Trying to do this piecemeal isn't really going to result in anything better than what it was. Yeah, figures. Eh. We'll fix that in the final. So until then, there's a little bit more I want to do. In addition to the fact that it kind of ends up looking like his nose glows from some of this light. Maybe it's just the anger. But it kind of, not too much, but a little bit, looks like it's shaking its fist at us. Or it's something over off to the right of the screen. And I actually kind of like that as an arm. Because it almost feels like it's like missing an arm on this side. Like this seems like it's a socket for an arm to fit into. And yeah, you could interpret this as an arm. But because of the way the yellow like connects up, I kind of like it better as sort of like more of a central tabard. Like cloth that's hanging down and sort of billowing in the breeze. Motion of it kind of works for that. I think it makes a more action exciting shot. But either interpretation, we're like it's definitely open to interpretation. So I am happy if anyone wants to argue the opposite or to do their own of the opposite. Like, this is just AI generated. I don't own it, but like no one does, or at least this particular result of it. At least that's my understanding of it. Although this thing I'm now drawing is kind of my thing, so you know. That stuff always gets so complicated. It looks like there's like a fabricy or plasticky like bend in it there. Like a loop here. Yeah, like see this part's a lot more abstract, so it's kind of hard to judge it or judge how it should go. I can't clear out some of the underlying or underneath parts here anyway. Okay, so yeah, now we've got like slightly better line work to work with. We'll save that. I don't know, line work. Sure. Does the line work? I sure hope it does. Anyway. Okay, we'll do a fresh vector. And let's actually, I never use the pen tools here. Let's actually use one, but I kind of want one that's going, well, okay, not that one because it kind of builds up at the end. I kind of want the millipen, but like smaller point. Because looking at the Pokemon art, it's very much just a consistent width line, at least the stuff I'm looking at. So there's no like tapering or anything like that. It's a line. And it does appear to be pretty consistently just a black line. So whoops. That's what I'm going to be doing on this layer. We'll refine some of this a little bit, maybe do some actual interpretation on some of it, and not just following it to a T, and we'll go from there. So, first off, I'm going to expand this in my view a little bit. I'll try to make it so that y'all don't lose sight of it. How's that? That good? That's not bad. Maybe widen it a little more. Okay. Ah, no. Okay. Yeah, that should work. Trying to clean this up a little. Give me just a second. But yeah, PureRef, really cool tool. I think the first place I heard of it was from those famous Rubber Ross Gartic streams. They're well, I'm not sure I can recommend them in good faith because they're not exactly family friendly. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Hit or miss, very hit or miss. But the other one was I've been doing a little bit of, and we'll see if we get doing this on streaming at some point in the future, although it's going to need a heck of a lot more than a 2-hour session to make good use of it. But I've been finally getting back into the world of 3D modeling. And that stuff is fun. Really complicated at times, but very fun. Gonna give it a little bit of a green. Yeah, okay. Like a real blast. Like it's been so many years since I've done any of that, and even more years since I've done it, like, seriously. Okay, so we're gonna try to do quick smooth strokes, and then Vector's gonna let us sort of like clean up on them a little bit. And if anything would be better represented by shading, I'm gonna try to do as much as I can with shadow instead. The lines are fairly, you've only got one width and you just use it everywhere. There's a certain limit that's going to cause. Let's like a little bit of a warble to this one. And this really does like connect pretty quick, and that connects pretty quick. Pupil, that's what it really is more like this. There's like a that going on in it. It's wild. It's a wild pupil. We'll have to figure out exactly how the details of that are going to work. I realize this is a line, but it's really more of like going to be buried in the rest of the shadows there. Okay. And I will say I have very little experience like properly inking like this. So you may have to bear with my sort of amateuriness on that. Realizing its teeth are kind of like actually squares and boxed off a little bit. Ugh, ominous. We'll see if we stick to that or not. Yeah, we've got sort of this edge here. Let's see, on Pokemon as well, like, different color sections, like, they don't usually do just, like, two colors next to each other unless it's, like, the shadow just on a normal color. Like, they're usually pretty well lined off from each other. Best as I can. Again, I'm using an old Pokemon drawing book over here, otherwise I'd be sharing my ref on screen. But yeah, no, there's pretty much always a line subdividing. It's not very thick line work. I've probably got too thick of a line going on this one, really. So maybe that's something I think we can adjust at the end with vector tools, actually. So that might be a good... Let's see if we can't figure that out, actually. This one, adjust line width. But like, okay, how do I pick what I'm adjusting it to, though? Oh, not 40. That's like the width of this thing. Oh, I'm making it bigger. Where can I... Oh, pen settings. Yes, yes, yes. Narrow. By about... Find that. Let's see, how's two phases look? How about just one phase? Couldn't do that. We'll have to clean up some of our lines a little bit, but that's the joy of vectors. Like, you can't do that with a raster layer and a raster line, because it's like, what do you mean thicken line? These are just dots. There is no line. Okay, so millipen, I guess that means that we're actually looking at a 5 then? Yeah, okay. Cool, 5's a pretty comfortable size. Alright, then let's get back into it. There's sort of like the outer, for lack of a better word, like eggshell of it. That kind of comes to a point here, really. Oh, jeepers, that line was looking so good right up until it wasn't. Urge, thank you. Okay, clean this one up now. That kind of like just phases in here somewhere. And then the actual like main line is basically parallel to it. Well, up to a point. Okay. There we go, a little bit of a curve there. Looks like just some warped metal. Full effect. Not really an effect I'd have guessed for Snivy. Um, it's difficult to know how much is from the filter, how much is from other images, how much is just the AI kind of garbling things up a little bit as it, kind of what we ask it to do, to be fair. And how much maybe it found like a metal Snivy art. Who knows? Not easy to tell where the heck it's getting these ideas. Okay, so there's kind of that. Like, oh, this is the most warpy sounding song of all these lo-fi ones. It's so warped. Kind of like it. There's something charming about that. Like a reflection of the arm. I'm gonna leave it green. Torn on that. We may come back to that. Oh, man, the Millipin shows every little bad movement of the hand. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. We'll figure out ways to clean that up a little bit with time. Or practice, one of the two. Usually both. But yeah, like holy cow, the mouth is gonna take some figuring out. There's something off about it. I need to figure out what exactly. Starters, that's getting that closed off is gonna help. This going a little more, it's really like a vertical line here, truthfully. Kind of like down, kind of like a crevice going down there. Kind of like goes up. This design is, for the record, like even with like probably too complex for most like Pokemon character designs. And then don't get me wrong, there's a lot that are much more complicated, but as far as like starters, they tend to go for a little bit more of the like cutesy, not massively complicated approach. We'll deal with the eye once we're getting to coloring and stuff, because there's just too much weirdness with that. Bizarre. Okay. I mean, this whole thing's bizarre. We're gonna get stuff that is borderline nonsensical with these. And I do say these because I've done a lot more AI-generated Pokemon refs, so we'll be able to come back to this for the rest of the week, and maybe again in the future if we want to, or with other ideas. I'm down for suggestions, by the way. If anyone's got something they want to see like thrown into an AI generator and then have me attempt to draw it, like send that nonsense my way. Because I am absolutely down for that. Some of that clowning. Not clowns in general, though. Sure, most of them mean well, but they're still kind of scary most of the time. Well, I've met some lovely clowns, truthfully. In IHOP, of all places. Anyway, that's probably a story for another day. Let's go ahead and look for this. So this kind of like the curve here sort of got this, and then it starts its curve up. This is a smooth connection as well. I think I just lost a line. I didn't mean to, but it wasn't one I needed, so. Making that too wide by like scratching over it again and again. Not really what you want to do with inks. We may, okay, that's definitely going to be done with shadow shading and not anything else. Okay, let's see. This comes out to about the eye, but it's definitely in the lower like third. Then it kind of arcs up to the upper third here. Kind of like that. Then it kind of goes down to here. There's a straight line up until about here. And then it, you know, in the original, it does kind of this jagged tooth look. This song sounds like so mysterious and like foresty and grand, and then it turns into what seems like final title credits music or something, or like background at a wedding procession before the exciting parts. Not bad, it's just a tonal shift. Okay. Let's stick to like that maybe. I don't think we need more detail than that. We can, yeah. Cool. Man, you can change what this expression means a lot just by changing the eye. There it's looking backwards. There it's like, now it's super caught up in its own ego. Now it's super happy. That one's just generic, like, I did it. Unconscious. Startled. Very startled. Someone said something that ruined its argument. I don't know. Like, the pupil apparently goes a long way in style decisions. More like I know the eye spoke volumes, but it's amazing to see how much it can change stuff just on a whim. Okay, so I recognize that the original Amogus I drew here wasn't exactly right proportions, but it's sufficiently close. This I kind of want to. Like just curves down like that. Likewise with this one. Likewise with that one, a little better. Okay. This really is like an indentation on it, so yeah, let's actually keep that. Actually keep this. I think it's better with just a single line. Like the other one adds some depth and character a little bit, but it also adds more detail than I think we'd really want for this. If we're going to try to match the style, which I am trying to do at least a little. This is one of those ones that I'm going to just have to sort of keep going at. Let's get it to here. Okay, maybe it's not one of those ones I'm going to just have to keep going at. Hey! That's the thing, is sometimes if you can get the right like sweeping motion and stuff, like the line work comes together a lot better than trying to feel it out. Problem is, my instincts scream at me not to do that, and it's really hard to get them to not do that. Or to get the instincts to not do that, I mean. It's very easy to get me to not do the correct approach. Feels weird. Okay, that's fine. This kind of goes all the way in, and then there's kind of like curved down that looks more like it's background silhouette, really. Oh, right. We need this one for sure. Oh, I kind of didn't notice there's like a panel here. And sort of extrapolate from it a little bit. The implication of piece like, whoop, nope. Like this, maybe. Oops. Actually using the pen this time. There we go. Oh, but it kind of like... want to match the ref as much as I can. Still getting like a Pokemon-y look. And I think that does it pretty well. Okay, last couple little odds and ends here. And an implication of something happening there. It's got like a little more taper than that. There we go. See, like one quick stroke. Weird how that works. Cool how it works, but you kind of got to trust your muscle memory a little bit. And I don't like doing that. Much as it's the right call, and it's very much trustworthy. It's not even necessarily muscle memory. It's just like at some point you can just do that. At least with like a not terribly large amount of practice, you can. We'll see on that. I don't like this billowing bit here. And still not quite doing it for me. Because this kind of just needs to smooth right into the bottom of it, and it's not doing that yet. Oopsie doodle. That's more like it. It's a funky looking arm though. Without the line work to distract, or the old sketch work to distract. Okay, I mean we're getting somewhere. It's got these large dark bits that I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna do. We could, Because it's basic. Okay, we'll figure out a color palette as soon as I do like a rough in of the eye, and then we'll go there. And then that might be all we have time for today, unfortunately. Like I mentioned, I've unfortunately got a little bit of job stuff I have to wrap up amongst other things. Such is the way. Okay. But there's like a lot of negative space void in here. I'm actually gonna hide that so we can get better expression ideas. Because the part, like, yeah, we can try to replicate the whole like swirl in there. That's very cool. Got something like this, and then it kind of like goes up and like continues downwards, and it's like a little ribbon inside the space. Or if like, I don't know, that looked more like an organ or something. But anyway, but that's not really what our eyes are picking up. And what the eye is picking up is just this bright part that's sort of like right here. The fact that it, like, I'm trying to figure out why it, I know why the anger isn't translating. Got it, got it. Because a lot of times the thing that's helping us parse that an expression is angry is the eyebrows. Um, not all the time. Like there's more to it than that. But like you could have a really smiley person, and then as soon as you do this, they at least look malicious. It's not really angry, but like you have a totally neutral expression. Now they're mad. I mean they could even be pretty stinking bug-eyed. Now they're mad. Actually, that one looks a little suspicious because I accidentally got kind of the tails on the. But like the point is, it adds a negative emotion when your eyebrows are clenched like that versus like that. Well, that guy just looks like he's like, I really want to understand your story, but you're not making any sense. What's this about a robot generating a Pokemon? Anyway, let's oh, how many times did I go over that in order for it to get that way? Anyway, let's see if we can't get this working a little better. It actually like continues till about midway over the eye, and then it sort of spikes down right next to it. And this one, I realize it's not that. Not quite that. It's like, but it's just a very slight taper. And this looks like a banana on its head now. I don't like that look at all. I think it's because this endpoint needs to be more like here still. That makes it more banana-y though. It's just because of this dark spot on the other end. Yeah, that was actually part of the issue. There, that's a little better. It's still not nailing the angry eye though. Is that about trusting muscle memory? Let's actually try to do that. There we go. Boom. Like 3 tries. Crazy. That's crazy how that works. It feels like magic. Probably looks like it a little bit too, although not with my ridiculous line work. But like, let's try interpreting the other way. Nope, that's not better. Maybe I need to raise this more so it looks like it's actually like kind of at an angle that could obscure part of that. I need to figure out what the heck's causing that to go a little wrong. This ain't helping. Vertical lines. But yeah, like the whole like trying to scratch in a line to a place feels like you're getting there, and eventually you will get something that looks close to the right line, but it's horrible and long and really wide. Or I can just do that. But my brain says that you can't do that. See, this stuff's also really hard to erase with the vector pen, so that's the other reason I don't like doing it. Vector eraser rather. But like, I don't know, you draw 2 points, and I'm like, okay, I can sort of aim at it. Got it. Or I can just do it. Like, consistently. Like, it's not even that hard, it's just my brain doesn't want to do it. And it's harder when it's a curve, yeah, because your brain's like, oh, can I do this, I guess I need to like feel it in. And you sort of get like every angle on the root to it, and it kind of averages out. Let's just undo because I don't want to have to erase that. But like, if I just trust my hand, it can do it. And that's not even like from practice. It's just like trusting that it works. And like when you miss the first time, not giving up. The undo button is a wonderful part of digital art. Truly a gift. No, I don't. That kind of like swirlies coming off of it too. Little nose glow. Maybe not swirlies then. Let's sort of. I don't know. It looks like it's got like knight armor down here, and then sort of like oh, actually those look like they're interesting. That's one piece maybe. Not one piece, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I need to figure out why the face is looking so ditzy. Or I don't know. I heard that was a rude word in like the UK, or maybe I'm thinking of a different one. Well, either way, my apologies if it was. Let's see. Okay, what am I, where are we going off on the... Oh! Okay, I'll have to fix the sort of helmet shape later. It's the eye outline. It's way more vertical cutoff in this one, and that's why it's giving it sort of the stern, angry look. Okay, let's start the whole eye area again. Clean some of this up. Don't really even need that lower line there. I'm gonna sort of clean up the whole, because we made a mess of it a minute ago. We'll clear those out of the way temporarily. Okay. So, about a third of the way across the mouth and about a third of the way across this thing. So we've got, that's our base point. This kind of arcs upwards a little bit. And then from here, it does a pretty bold, like, still about here. Whoops. Got that, and then that. Okay, this inking stuff isn't, I mean, it's not easy, but it's not as bad as it looked. Got kind of, like, this one's almost directly above it, and just kind of comes down, not quite that straight. That's part of the problem, is that ends up looking like kind of a silly front face thing. Oh! It's because this rim is supposed to be like most of it for most of the path, and then it kind of like trails down. Adds a little depth to it. Maybe that'll help us solve our issue. Not particularly. Well, we'll come back to that, because the main thing that we did figure out, I think, how to fix. A little more squiggle in this craggy rock face looking thing. But the eye itself we can fix. Finally. It kind of like does like a little, and this even like should taper a little more. We'll clean that. Okay. Kind of like arcs from here to here. And then it kind of goes like up and around. More like this. The point of the curve is really supposed to be like somewhere over here. This should only have to arc up a little bit, and then sort of like, it's like that? No. Sort of connecting at the side here, but I don't want it to look wide. Figuring out how to do like a non-circular curve is always so difficult. Okay, let's think about this. Follows the edge up. Then it's basically like half an egg wedged into it. But no, it's the wedge direction is like this. Sure, yeah, that. And I'll have to fix the angle on this. Kind of like this thing going on, and then we've got kind of the curve there, which is still looking too happy. But at the very least, I think this eye is more correct. And it's going to look better on the finished deal. Okay. Let's see, let's see. Man. Okay, let's bring back the sketch layer. Let's see how we did it there. It was kind of silly looking on that one too, to be fair. But not nearly as bad. And even better on like the little mini ones. So, it comes down to the point, kind of converges at said point. Um, What's that? Oh, oh, I accidentally rotated my sketch thing, and lines were not where I thought they were. Gotta get my eye back in a little bit. Okay, there we go. In that one, I kind of did something like that. It's almost ducky faced though. Maybe I'm just making this corner too sharp. If we smooth that out, it'll look sleek again. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, that actually does look a lot like something you'd see on a Pokemon. Like, there's a bird with kind of a crest sort of like that. Is it Talonflame? Maybe. And I feel like Rapidash or Ponyta has something kind of similar too. And then that doesn't really have a lower line. Okay, now that we've sort of got that in a way, we can do a little Kragan. Because this is, yeah, basically like that. Down. Line up. Or at least something of that nature. You know, even if it doesn't look angry, I'm kind of okay with this kind of vaguely happy one. I do want to figure out why it's ended up like this though. Maybe shading will add emphasis in different places or something. I don't know. Or it's like this pupil is so complex in the original one that like when you look at it, it actually kind of has no expression. But like at a glance, it looks stern. And I think the sternness is more from the posture though. So yeah, we'll see. But we've got some basic line work in here, so next time around, that'll be same time, same channel tomorrow. Actually slightly earlier time because I will, actually start on time, hopefully. I don't have anything I expect to get in the way of that tomorrow, unlike today where I had a sneaking suspicion. So I think I'll say last 9-ish minutes here, I do want to try to figure out the color palette real quick. So let's throw the normal layer back on, and let's get ourselves two greens, kind of a beige and kind of a gold, because that's sort of what we've got with the Snivy Superior line. And then we may have like an accent. It's kind of gone with a purple for the eye, which I'm 100% down with. And then maybe some of that dark black green shadow, whatever it is, blue green something. But the main ones are a light green, a dark green, a yellow, and a beige. And then we'll sort of build from there. So as far as greens go, one of them it's a fairly blue-ish green. Like even if you look on Superior itself, it really is. So let's not this marker, not the Millipen, but here we'll felt tip it. Maybe we'll felt tip it slightly larger because we're building a color palette here. Let's see how this is looking on our ref. sort of between the, like it's in the shadows, sure. And I think actually, if we're doing kind of, let's do the darker green first because it's kind of the more bluey one. I think we need like lean into the blue. It's something almost minty, like yeah. Maybe even more. Yeah, I kind of like that for our darker one. And then we've got kind of the mid green that lands. There's so much shadow on this, it's a little hard to judge. How's that looking compared to, say, like this section of the armor here? Almost could use like a little more yellow, but not like too much. No, that wasn't it. Is it really that it's like actually also needs a little more blue? Kind of like that more. Yeah, and then for this darker one, I'm actually going to lean into it even more. Yeah, I realize these are kind of the shadowed colors on that lower armor, but that's okay. We can do highlights instead of shading, and that works too. And actually kind of works more for this weird reflective style. We're going to have both by the end. Okay, so that's kind of the greens. Let's get our kind of golden yellow, because gold is just dark yellow. It's like on the en route to brown. That's got too much green in it. Okay, let's shift more towards the red side of these. I'll get us closer to the golds. In terms of like the actual Pokemon color, this is pretty close. In terms of this drawing, I think it's actually got like a little bit brighter, a little less red. Yeah, kind of inclined to stick with the old one though. I think these three work nicely together. And then let's get a beige in here. Not quite the background beige, mind. We're gonna have to be careful to avoid that. Oh, I'm not even showing these. There. I think that's, yeah, I think that's good for our beige. Okay, so we've sort of got our four colors there. We may end up with like a little more shadow and depth than a normal Pokemon, but I'm gonna try to consolidate it into the style properly. So if I do that, then we may have to go with a slightly lighter green for the secondary one and the darkish blue one. Actually, hold that thought. What if, okay, this becomes our dark green. We grab a lighter green that's somewhere close to the blue yellows, but still like not overly crazy. Maybe a tad more blue. Yeah. Lighter green armor, darker green armor. Nope, don't cover the darker green. And then this becomes sort of our shade color, like the deep darks. So I'm actually going to tweak it and make it a little darker. And then we sort of do it like this. I don't liked it better with the blue. Whoops, more blue, less dark, maybe. Yeah. I realize it's almost got like a purple sheen to it, especially in the section around the head and the eye, which is interesting. Almost pop it like somewhere over here. That looks maybe too purple next to the others. Maybe if I just make it like a little more pale. Well, pale but still deep shadowy. That just depends on which part of the shadow we're looking at, really. Does it look good with the other colors? Real quick, let's just figure that out. It kind of looks unrelated to them, which is fairly close to what we're looking for. I think that's what we're gonna want to do. I don't know what layer. Oh, that's on the right. Those were line drawing. Yeah, you can see how the felt pen works really well on when we've got it big like this. You can sort of see it's like big old blops at the end. Anyway, oh right. Give me just a second. Okay, so I think we've got sort of a color palette worked out here in kind of an awkward egg blob fashion. And I do think, unfortunately, that is where we're going to have to wrap it for tonight. Let me once again move that actually on screen. I think that that's been a great first start. If you want to try some of these AI generated yourselves, I'm not sponsored. Obviously, I've got like 3 followers. No one's sponsoring that. But this Wombo.arts, their app is called Dream, and it's pretty neat. You can do some fun stuff with it. And so yeah, we've got a whole bunch of Pokemon lined up. We'll actually try to draw. We've got the line work sort of in place. Next time we'll see if we can actually get this maybe a little cleaner line work. There's some stuff we can do for that. Some line smoothing and such. But also, we'll try to actually render it in more of a Pokemon-ish style. So, we've got that to look forward to next time. I hope to see y'all there. Until then, I guess have a good night. Again, sorry for the late start. Sorry for the early end. It's one of those days real life gets in the ways, like you do. Well, I will see y'all on the flip side.